Hello, it's Giant 2B here, and
Psyche.
yeah.
Hi.
Oh yeah, so we're gonna be doing Star Trek 6, Undiscovered Country, and we're gonna do that one today. And yeah, so basically we're taking off right where Star Trek 5 left off. Well, sort of left off. You know, so just this is 1991, the Cold War in 1989, and Gene Roddenberry had passed away, and of course, the Next Generation was in full force. And I think the Next Generation was rounding up too, but they wanted to do a transition movie, but they weren't ready for that. But they wanted to finish up with the original cast, and obviously the Russians were kind of the Klingons, and the U.S. was pretty much the Federation and whatnot. So anyways, we're going to review Star Trek 6, directed by Nicholas Meyer. So you have the same cast, but you have Plummer, you have Chris Plummer and stuff, and whatnot, and of course Nicholas Meyer directed this one. You have anything to say, or?
I like how William Shatner was such a good actor, and how he just took the initiative to try to get over the bad guys, and how they found them was pretty live. It was pretty cool.
So we're gonna go over that movie. So this was 1991, and I actually saw it in theaters when I was a baby or a little kid, and Gene Roddenberry had just passed away. But they do a tribute to Gene Roddenberry. He's the creator of Star Trek, and so they're doing the transition, with the Next Generation in full force. But obviously, they have a new theme for it, just for that. And so we begin with the explosion of Praxis, and Praxis was kind of like their Chernobyl. And of course they had to begin negotiations at once and whatnot, for to bring peace to the Klingons. And George Takei, who plays Sulu, is promoted to captain after. And it's funny they promote Chekhov to being the helmsman. I'm surprised about that. But he's flying he's captain of the Excelsior, and they have the Praxis explosion. And of course they're going to have a top secret meeting of what to do with the Klingons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
just how they get through it all. It just kind of makes it such a journey, because they like to imitate each other, and it's really fun to see from ending to beginning again, to see how the differences and what you would expect. So watching it over and over again is pretty cool.
Monitored an explosion on the Klingon moon, Praxis. We believe it was caused by overmining and insufficient safety precautions. The moon's decimation means the deadly pollution of their ozone. They will have depleted their supply of oxygen in approximately 50 Earth years. Due to their enormous military budget, the Klingon economy does not have the resources with which to combat this catastrophe. Last month, at the behest of the Vulcan ambassador...
So, Kirk was not very excited about it. Shatner, Kirk, he's not very excited about, volunteering for the negotiations. And of course, Christopher Plummer plays Cord and stuff, General Cord, and and of course he volunteered, and of course he's saying that, well, I don't forgive him for the death, if you saw in Star Trek 3, they killed his son, so he never forgave him. And of course Valeris, it's funny how Chekhov never got promoted to that, but she's the helmsman, and she's trying to pull the by the book thing, but of course, as we see here, this is all a ploy, and of course we have spies amongst them, because they're really against they're really against and whatnot. And he's recorded, and she recorded them.
Your career with satisfaction, and as a Vulcan, you've exceeded my expectations.
I do not understand this representation.
It is a depiction from ancient Earth mythology. The expulsion from paradise.
Why keep it in your quarters?
It's a reminder to me that all things end.
It is a...
So they were setting up that Valeris is obviously an inside spy along with Admiral Cartwright and whatnot. And of course they're trying to retire and whatnot. And as we saw there, that everything ends. Spock, because he already died before and whatnot. And of course then they, are being greeted by Kronos 1, the Klingon battlecruiser. And and of course, it's supposed to be all diplomatic, and I think that, Spock was kind of wrong, and he was trying to be an ambassador. Of course, you see the Next Generation where he did become an ambassador, and, trying to do, cowboy diplomacy and whatnot.
Yeah, it's just really manipulative how, two people who are meant to be like super honest and loyal, like they found each other and they started communicating, and it's almost like who's telling who a lie, So when I see, what's her name?
Dolores,
whenever she tries to communicate with him, he's not communicating, properly about what they want to accomplish or what their understanding is to the bad guys. And so I just think that they're tattletelling on each other about how they feel, and it's very obvious that from her looking at the painting and like saying, like, it was obviously something that she was trying to bring up, and he didn't respond to her. He wasn't listening to her. And I think that's whenever he should have noticed that she was betraying him.
Yeah, and of course Spock's half human too, but yeah, he should have realized, and should have realized that. But yeah, invite Chancellor Cord to dinner, and to negotiate the peace. And of course he beams over Plummer, and they're all fond of Shakespeare, and of course they have ramen ale aboard, which is like it's blue beer in real life, but it's very heavy alcohol apparently. And of course they have the daughter, and of course Christopher Plummer and is manipulating and whatnot. And unfortunately this is a VHS, so I'm kind of fast forwarding and whatnot.
It's super funny how they don't know what the napkins are, like, or what to do with them.
I offer a toast.
Funny.
The undiscovered country.
Can't do scene for scene, but obviously, I apologize to presume, but I can't do scene for scene, obviously. But obviously, Cord is saying, "Oh yeah, well, we need breathing room," or 1938. And of course, they quote quoting Shakespeare left and right, and because they might be the alien trash of the world and whatnot. And then of course the ramen ale does get them drunk, and alright, so no one knows what's going on. And but all of a sudden, two crew members that Valeris hired. She hired them to assassinate the Chancellor, And meanwhile, Cord snuck aboard a cloaked Klingon, but we don't know that yet. The cloak, and the only thing they have is nitro nutrition thing. And all of a sudden they're firing, all of a sudden they're being anti-gravity. Like I said, I can't do scene for scene, because if I did, that would be too much copyright infringement. Paramount Pictures owns it. But yeah, these two crew members that were hired by Valeris, you know, she's saboteuring, and makes it look like the Enterprise fired, and they're having conflicts on whether or not torpedoes were even shot. And of course, now one thing that I find interesting, how did those two crew members get off alive when you have like a complement of maybe 150 to 200 people aboard, and how do they get off alive? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like, how do they get off alive? Only two against, you know, like all these other guys that no one shoots back. So it made no sense. And of course they surrender and whatnot. And of course Kirk's like, well, we have to, you know, and of course he slaps on a Viridian patch and whatnot, you know, to find out what happened.
Ignorance. What happened? With a direct torpedo hit, you crippled our entire gravitational field. And two of your Starfleet crew beamed aboard wearing magnetic boots and did this. Aren't you carrying a surgeon? We were until this disgrace. Well then, for God's sakes, man, let me help.
But yeah, obviously McCoy was trying to save him. You know, Kirk doesn't know what's going on. What's going on? They don't know what the hell is going on. And Dr. McCoy is trying to save his life. And his whispers, "Don't end this way, Captain."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think that, you know, he could have saved him if he would have like been there sooner, but he didn't have the anatomy of the body, so that made it complicated and killed him ultimately. So that's pretty sad to watch her dad die.
Yeah. So meanwhile, the ambassador, and of course the Romulan, I'm surprised the Romulans were even had ambassadors, because they were pretty much enemies, the Romulans. And pure, I mean, they were more pure enemy than the Klingons, so I'm even surprised that he was in on it. And of course, Colonel West comes in to have a strategy to, and of course Starfleet from Saturn, so he has a strategy to, oh yeah, let's invade, you know, invade the Klingons while they're down, while their bridges are down. And of course the Klingons want to invade too, and the president was really against it. I don't know what type of species the president of the Federation was about. You know, we don't know species. And of course they're being ordered to go home. And Valeris, being a double agent, she's kind of saying, well, you could do sabotage. We'll just do sabotage. She's taking sabotage. And of course the daughter gets promoted to Chancellor of the Klingon Empire. And they said, let's have a neutral place, you know, Kinimur. And of course the Klingons are saying, let's do the same thing. And I guess the other Klingon was in on it too. And he was actually a human, pretending to be a Klingon. And of course, though, they decide to let's have a stock trial. And of course, she's unaware of it, but he has a thing. And of course, they say, oh yeah, let's visually account for every torpedo. And Valeris is being double agent. And of course, now they have that trial for Kirk and McCoy.
And she exposes herself with the knowledge that she does know about shooting our passengers and stuff like that. Like, she goes in and she makes a big deal with having to fix...
For her to be doing these things.
Yeah, go ahead.
So she made a big deal about what she knew about the torpedoes and about the evidence, and it just didn't sit well with me, because that made her look so suspicious. So she should have, you know, kept more quiet, but she was in the loop. And you know, I didn't even notice until like she started giving out evidence of, you know, what she would do.
Yeah, well, we don't know that till later that she was in the loop. She's playing double agent. She's playing innocent.
Yeah.
So anyway, and of course you know, the president tells, you know, one of the admirals, he says, you know, they'll save the world again, but this time by standing trial. So we go to the trial, and of course this time, instead of a fair trial, it's a kangaroo court. This really is a kangaroo court. It's all set up. And of course they have Michael Doran as Worf's great-grandfather playing the defendant lawyer. So Michael Dorn, his cameo is which is interesting. That Michael Dorn from Next Generation was being the defense. He's played basically his grandfather, basically. And we have a kangaroo court.
We lost our gravitational field. I found myself weightless and unable to function.
Then 2 Starfleet crewmen came walking towards me.
But perhaps they merely wore Starfleet uniforms.
That remark is purely speculative. I move that it be stricken.
Colonel Worf, we are interested in facts, not theories.
If the gravitational unit was not functioning, how could these men be walking?
They appeared to be wearing magnetic boots.
Gravity boots.
Dr. McCoy,
Would you be so good as to tell me, what is your current medical status?
aside from a touch of arthritis, I'd say pretty good.
You have a singular wit, Doctor.
For 27 years, I've been ship surgeon aboard the USS Enterprise.
McCoy realizes it's a setup before Kirk does, and of course they have the personal log, and of course everybody's watching the court, and I think that's what Spock realized that that something's up, and of course they were set up here, because. And as if you notice, and I couldn't show scene for scene, but the door was open, and Valeris was just hiding back there recording his personal log. How did they get the personal log? And that's where Spock was thinking, well, we got to search the Enterprise. And, obviously these 2 men are innocent, because, he says, I'm responsible for everyone in the crew, as captain. Because then, of course, everybody's watching, of course, Sulu knows about everything. He knows about the Camp Kindermer stuff. And of course, Rand, who got promoted to a commander, and she was, of course, they had a Voyager episode with that, with the Tuvok in there. But anyway, so they get transferred to Rura Penthe, and it's a penal colony for the universe. And I'm really surprised. I think that's one thing I'm surprised that Chekhov was not helmsman. Because he's been on there for 27 years. Being the I'm surprised. But Spock is kind of like he's all, he's like, oh yeah, well we gotta find these gravity boots. We gotta find out what obviously one computer has been falsified to fake the torpedoes were shot, and other ones they weren't shot. Did they really fire? And of course they did find out that they didn't fire any torpedoes at all. They came from somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And then of course Kirk and McCoy are on Rura Penthe, which is like a penal colony, maximum security prison, no beaming out, and they encounter a shapeshifter, and she befriends him, and of course they didn't realize that the shapeshifter at the time, she was basically a double agent. She was a spy herself, because they wanted to have like a kill the evidence type assassination. Kill the destroy the evidence. We'll do it in a prison. And we'll have them quietly go away.
Authorized phaser aboard Starship?
Suppose when they returned, they threw the boots into the refuse.
I'm having the refuse searched. If my surmise is correct, those boots will cling to the killer's necks like a pair of Tiberian bats. They could not make their escape without them, nor can they simply throw them out the window for all to see. Those boots are here, somewhere.
Did someone fire off a phaser?
It's all right. It's nothing. It's nothing.
Mr. Spock, Starfleet is screaming for us to return to port.
Who fired that?
Ah, Mr. Scott. I understand you're having difficulty with the warp drive. How much time do you require for repair?
There's nothing wrong with the bloody thing.
Mr. Scott, if we return to space dock, the assassins will surely find a way to dispose of their incriminating footwear. And we will never see the captain or Dr. McCoy alive again.
Could take weeks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
So as we see that, Spock, is trying to say we have to omit that the Enterprise is in horrible shape when it's in wonderful shape, and they had to lie to Starfleet so they wouldn't go back, because as we saw, that the two criminals that shot, and because they don't know Valeris is in on it, they don't know she's in on it. Meanwhile, Kirk and Kirk and McCoy are saying they're afraid of the future because this was the end of the Cold War. People of the older generation were, reflecting upon the Cold War. Americans, the Russians, of course, now we're in a new generation of things with the Ukrainian war. But is everybody afraid of the future?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like how William Shatner, he makes out with a girl and he's just a ladies' man, and it's just classic, just the good guy getting the bad girl. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. But yeah, and of course Chekhov discovers Klingon buzz. They know, we gotta find boots. They have to search the ship for those boots. Find the ship. They turn the ship upside down for the boots. And of course, they find, Valeris planted the boots on the wrong person. And meanwhile, the shapeshifter is screwing them and pretending she's being a scoundrel with them.
You are crewman Dax?
Yes, Commander. What is the problem?
Perhaps you know Russian epic of Cinderella. If shoe fits, wear it.
Oops. Mr. Chekhov.
No mistake. Meanwhile, why are these Klingon guards just so lackadaisically eating, not recognizing anything? It's like, the Klingon guards, they're just sitting there eating, they're purposely not observing. Because obviously she was paid off, and she admits later she'll be granted a full pardon to pretend they're gonna escape, to let them escape, and she gave them clothing, because if anybody that was on that planet or the moon would freeze to death, and she gave them warm clothing. She had fire sticks and survival stuff that you shouldn't have, because since they're prisoners, why would they have all this survival stuff? And I think Kirk realized that, and of course, meanwhile, they're racing towards Rua Penthe, the moon, and but of course, that's deep within Klingon territory, and of course, they have to figure out how to speak Klingon, and of course, if they spoke Klingon with the translator, they'd get exposed. Of course, I think these Klingons knew, obviously they knew. I think the Klingons knew that they were there. I think they knew who they were, and they're playing. I think they were playing with them.
Yeah.
They were kind of playing. They said they knew. They knew that they were playing, and of course, then because where do they get the fire flares? I mean, think about it. I mean, that's not standard prison issue. Not for survival. I mean, the guy said the warden said if you don't work, you die. It's a colony. Mm-hmm. So, and of course, he's about to reveal, and of course, when he gets back into the Enterprise, they must say, Valeris must be the bad guy. But yeah, they reveal, who's the bad guy, and who's who, who's in on it. Mm-hmm. And Spock has to do his mind meld, and and where's the peace conference? Or Sulu knew because it was top secret.
Gorkon's ship. So that's not entirely. We don't mean that Gorkon's murderers are aboard this vessel.
I haven't thought about that. Has the peace conference begun?
Well, no, keeping the location secret.
There's always something.
Captain! Mr. Spock, I found the missing uniforms with the Klingon blood on them. But the uniforms belong to these two men, Burke and Sandal.
Not anymore. They show them stunned at close range.
First rule of assassination: kill the assassins.
Now we're back to square one.
Can I talk to you? I wonder why they were vaporized.
What set off the alarm?
It's possible.
So Spock and Kirk being the geniuses there, they always have been in the TV show being the geniuses. They had to bait, see who it was. They baited her. They thought, oh, it must be Valeris. And that's why they called Blue. It was all a bait trap to bait her. Because why is she top of her class? Mm-hmm. And, you know, obviously he does the mind meld to get the truth out of her. You know, you know, except for the location of the peace conference, who are the other people that are conspiring for a next assassination, you know, of the chancellor or of the president of the Federation.
Yeah, it kind of makes me want to like go like that to his face and do the whole truth thing.
Yeah, mind meld. But yeah, so they have to, and of course they realize, oh yeah, there's a cloaked bird of prey, a new weapon, and yeah. And of course Sulu interferes. He's going to help it. Of course, they have to keep it all secret because Sulu, you know, it's made. You know, remember if you remember Star Trek has the Great Experiment. Now has an NCC after it, and I'm not a super fan, but I guess there's an expert to tell you what NCCs mean. And of course Kirk and so they have to race over to Khitomer. And if you watch the Next Generation, they talk about the Khitomer Accords and stuff that the Romulans were doing the Khitomer Accords, if you watch the Next Generation. But yeah, and of course Spock are telling, you know, it's time for us to retire. And of course then they encounter, now I saw this in the theaters in 1991, I did. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they have the amazing battle scene where the cloaked bird of prey is fighting the Enterprise, and of course the Excelsior comes at maximum warp. And, Chris, Plummer's quoting Shakespeare left and right. And there was a scene, I don't know if I'm going to show it or not, but there was a scene where he says they're trying to get a torpedo to follow the gasoline trail and, you know, to find this bird of prey. And McCoy says, I'll give you real money, and everybody in the theater laughed when he said that.
Tickle us, do we not laugh? Prick us, do we not bleed? Wrong us, shall we not revenge? Gas. Gas, Captain. Under impulse power, she expands fuel like any other vessel. We call it plasma. But whatever the Klingon designation is, merely ionized gas.
Well, what about all of that equipment we're carrying to catalog gaseous anomalies? The thing's got to have a tailpipe.
Doctor, would you care to assist me in performing surgery on a torpedo?
I guess I'm lying.
The proposed agenda is as follows. The total evacuation of Kronos has been calculated within
And that's a
50
human
year time span.
pretending to be a Klingon. It's Colonel West. Wait, I'll tell you that yet. I find it amazing how the Excelsior, which is bigger and better, is being shot up really badly. And that's the Excelsior.
Cry Hamlet! And let's slip the dogs of war!
Bones, where's my torpedo?
Bet you wish you'd stood there.
Key, please, Doctor. Time is short. The hull has been compromised.
Wonder how bad.
Connect echo bars.
Just to report on
Northern Star. I'd give real money if you'd shut up.
They find it and they shoot Chris Plummer and the cloaked bird of prey down, and of course then they beam down to save the Chancellor and the President. And of course, you know, the famous, it's about this future Madam Chancellor. And yeah, and of course they realize, oh, it's Colonel, and of course Cartwright escapes, or tries to, and they all say, no, you're not going anywhere, and he gives his famous speech, which I did a high school thing on, and you know, to have these peace accords, and everybody claps, and of course Sulu and his crew of the Excelsior. It's amazing how much they took on with the Excelsior, because they part ways and say goodbye and whatnot.
Such a good movie.
Yeah. His responsibility, if I were human, my responsibility would be go to hell.
Second start to the right. And straight on till morning. Captain's log, stardate 9529.1. This is the final cruise of the Starship Enterprise under my command. This ship and her history will shortly become the care of another crew. To them and their
next generation
posterity will we commit our future. They will continue the voyages we have begun and journey to all the undiscovered countries, boldly going where no man, where no one has gone before.
So that was Star Trek 6. They sign off with the final cast. You know, George Takei wanted to be captain, so fine, got it. And they sign off, and that was the end of the original. Of course, they do Star Trek send McCoy, excuse me, Shatner, Chekhov, Dr. Koenig, and George Doohan actually going the next one 7 because they're doing a transition for the next generation. But that was the thing that was going on. But yeah, that's that. And then yeah, so it was one of the better, it was obviously the end of the final original cast from the original series. And I'd say it's number 2 behind Wrath of Khan, and and 4. But yeah, that was Star Trek 6. Any final thoughts?
It was amazing to see it, and yeah, it was pretty cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. But yeah, so this is Johnny 2B.
And Psyche.
And we're signing off. You guys have a good night or a pleasant day wherever you are.